Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be teaching you how to play Lightsworn Tearlaments. Now, if you want the deck profile for which I've basically based this entire video on, it's going to be the one that I uploaded yesterday. I should have a link to it somewhere, whether it's in the description or like one of those little widgets that's like probably like right around up here somewhere, or even in the comment section. So just be on the lookout if you want like a point of reference for what the build exactly looks like. But yeah, as far as like the deck goes, or how far like this video is gonna go, I'm basically just gonna show you like the general basics that you should know when trying to approach this deck, because it is fairly complicated and it is incredibly easy to mess up. So hopefully this somewhat helps you. Even if it's just like a little bit, then my job is done, right? So with that in mind, let's jump straight into it. Now, as always, we're going to be using one of the decks that have been showcased on this channel. So if you want the exact list, it's going to be somewhere, you know, probably up here in the description down below or in the comments somewhere. So it won't be too hard to find, just in case you want like a better frame of reference for how to play the deck. And as always the case with these videos, we're going to give it like a proper shuffle just so that we can ensure the authenticity, which is one of like the biggest trademarks for these types of videos, as I don't really enjoy doing the giving myself like perfect 5-card hand and then just showing you what the maximum potential is going to do. I'd rather give you like the more or like a most authentic experience possible. And the only way to do that is by giving it like a proper shuffle and then leaving it a chance to see if we get a good hand or not. Which, you know, this is a luck-based deck and we do play bricks like in the form of Felice and Wolf. So sometimes your hands are just going to be absolutely abysmal. But it's great because it makes for a fantastic learning experience. So we're just going to shuffle it up a little bit more, and that should probably be good enough. So we're going to put that there for our deck, and then we're going to draw our starting 5, being Tearlaments Solyak, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino, Tearlaments Sharon, and another Solyak. So as far as hands go, it's pretty bad. You basically just have like 2 lines of play, and if either one of them gets stopped, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. But even so, we can still work with this. And I guess we'll just start from like the most optimal. Obviously, the best play here is Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino, just to activate that. And what we're probably going to be adding off of this is going to be Tearlaments Rhinoheart. But even just off of like the one Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino activation, you can tell a lot about your opponent, depending on how they like respond to it. So if your opponent decides to hand trap you with like an Ash Blossom, for example, that already tells you that they're bad at the game. As if you're playing against a Tearlament deck, that basically means you should never hit this. You always want to wait for cards like Sharon, because that's like the more impactful stuff. And I know I said bad, but that doesn't mean they could also just be like inexperienced in the matchup, which means that they're like a new player, so you can take advantage of them more easily. And not in like a negative way, I mean more like they're just unfamiliar with your cards, so as a result you can catch them by surprise a lot more often than you would like a more experienced player. So, you know, just little things like that you got to keep in mind when playing a deck like this. But anyways, we're going to be activating the planet. We're going to be adding the Rhinoheart. And then from here, we're going to shuffle our deck again because obviously we searched. And then we're going to go for the only other play, which is to activate this Tearlaments Sharon. So we're going to discard or special summon the Sharon by discarding the Rhinoheart. And then we're going to mill our 3 cards. And then let me just put the hand down here. So we mill our 3, being a King Sark, Weiss, and an Ash Blossom. This is just one of the many times where you're going to end up having to just have unfortunate mills like this, because the engines, while they do complement each other, they do have like a lot of anti-synergy as well, as weird as that may sound, right? And it does take a little bit of effort to actually get them to work together. But even so, this is perfectly fine for what we're trying to do. Then from here, we have nothing in here, but we did send the Reinhardt by card effect, so we're going to be able to bring it back. And the Reinhardt's going to be able to summon itself, and then we're going to send one of the Solyaks. And then from here, we are going to activate Rhinoheart Chainlink 1 to send, and the Solyak Chainlink 2 to search. If you want to be like a little bit more cautious, truth be told, the search of the Solyak is going to be a lot more important than the Reinhardt's in this situation. So if you want to make this one like Chainlink 1 to ensure that it doesn't get hit by a hand trap, which, I mean, if your opponent had an Ash Blossom, for example, they would have used it already by this point. So it's not like you have to be as cautious. But if your hands, for example, I don't know, like say you did it like a little bit weirdly or whatever, and the Sharon part like never happened, you just went like foolish, send Reinhardt, send the Solyak, then in that case, if you want to be like more cautious, then you activate Celiac Chainlink 1, Reinhardt Chainlink 2. But by this point in the combo, we'd be pretty confident in knowing what our opponent has or doesn't have. So the Chainlink really doesn't matter in this case. So even so, we're going to be activating those. We're going to be adding a tier cache to hand. And because we don't have any materials in the graveyard, that means we're going to be sending a Tearlaments Kashtira here as well as adding one in order to basically just try and mill more. All right, so next, our tier caches and graveyard effect will activate to mill 2 cards. Hold on, this is part of the, oh, these are the 3 cards that we milled. We don't want to mix those up. So, all right, that's saved. And then let me move this up here so that we have a little bit more space to like just play around, because the board does get pretty clogged pretty fast. So, all right, so we got our graveyard over there. This is in our hand. We got our Rhinoheart and our Sharon there. Okay, everything's fixed. So our tier cache's effect will activate to mill 2 cards. But before it resolves, we are going to chain the tier cache in our hand to special summon itself, just because we do play cards like Tearlaments Grief. So we want to banish this and then special summon that. And then on the chance that we mill Tearlaments Grief, that basically means we get to add back this card to our hand. So you just want to like maximize yourself on those little interactions, right? Because they do matter a lot in the long game. So from here, we summon the tier cache, but we don't get to use its effect yet because it'll activate on a new chain. But we do get to mill 2, being the 2 Charge of the Light Brigade and the King Sarcophagus. Then we're going to be activating our Tearlaments Kashtira to mill 3 more cards, being the Lightsworn Dragonling, a Lightsworn Dragonling, and the Tearlaments Reinhardt. Oh my goodness, this is abysmal. I did a couple of test hands before this, and they were not this bad, I promise. It's just beyond unfortunate what we have to do. But even so, we can still work with this. It's not like the end of the world, although it's not ideal. This is where this card will actually come up. So now we're going to overlay both of these two into our number 60 Dugaris. So this is where this card tends to shine over cards like Minerva, right? So we're going to special summon our Dugaris. The zone doesn't matter in this specific variant. We're going to detach 2, and then we're going to special summon. So from here, we're going to bring out Lightsworn Dragonling. And just like that, with the 2 level 4 monsters we had, we've been able to bridge the gap and combine both engines into one. So our Dragonling is going to be special summoned, and now its effect is going to activate. And with that, we're going to send the Felice, and the Felice's effect will activate to come back, and then we're going to be able to synchro summon. Now, we're going to synchro for 8, and the first one that we make is going to be Minerva every single time. And then on summon, because we use 2 plus, or I guess 2 Lightsworn monsters, we get to send 2 Lightsworn monsters from deck to grave. And as a result, we're going to be sending the Wolf and then the Weiss. So just remember that when you activate Minerva's effect, they have to be 2 different types. So as a result, you won't be able to go like Wolf and Felice in the same. You're basically always going to go one or the other with the Weiss, and then the Weiss is going to bring back the one that you already have in your graveyard. So another thing that you need to be aware of, obviously. And so we send these to grave. Wolf will activate because it's mandatory. Then Weiss's effect will activate, and it will bring back your tuner monster, being the Felice. So we bring both of them back, special summon both of them, and then from here we're going to synchro these away, and we're going to make Visas and Ratara, and then Visas effect will activate to search out any single spell or trap that mentions Visa Starfrost, which is every single one of our Tearlament spells and traps. And from here, we're actually going to add Tearlaments Scream. We don't need Tearlaments Grief, but if you really wanted to, you know, just have like some kind of insurance to be able to bring out like a tier monster and then special summon it and then fusion summon, you could get this one. But with the way that the hand is shaping up, we're basically about to mill like the rest of our deck anyways, so it really doesn't matter all that much. And as a result, Scream would definitely like benefit us a little bit more. Then from here, we are going to activate Scream. The zone, once again, doesn't really matter all that much, but we'll just keep it in the middle just so like you can see it more clearly. Then we're going to activate our Minerva's effect, banishing 4 Lightsworns. It does not matter which 4 you mill or which 4 you banish to mill, if we're being honest, because we don't play Judgment or Punishment. So if you want, you could do like multiples or whatever, but I typically like to keep at least, as long as we have like 1 Felice, and this list plays 2, 1 Felice in deck plus like a Weiss, we're basically going to be good to go every single time. And obviously 1 Dragonling, because this list only plays 2 as well. So we're probably going to keep this, and then we're gonna do that just because we only play the 1 Wolf, and then we're gonna mill 4 cards, being Charge, Imseti, Merly, and Imseti. So here's where the first part comes up, being do we activate our Merly effect to special summon, or to fusion summon, I mean. And we do have a couple of choices, right? We can go straight for the Kaleido Heart if we really want to, or if you play Garura, which this list does not, you could also just do that to have like a free body by fusing these two away. And we could even just go like straight to the Mud Dragon, right? But so many choices, and with the way that this current board is lined up, it honestly doesn't really matter. So I guess we're just going to go straight for the Kaleido Heart this time, just to have some kind of presence. And it is also insurance for when you decide to get hit by a Nibiru during, like, at some point, especially because we don't have like the Rukolos yet. And I noticed that I have 2 Rhino Hearts in here. One of them should be banished, so we're just going to banish one of those because they, or actually no, I'm lying. They should both be in the graveyard because they were, the second one that summoned itself back was linked into Dagaris, so never mind, forget me. I'm just blabbing now. So yeah, we're just gonna put these 3 back, and they go to the bottom of the deck, and then we can special summon Kaleido Heart. So one of the cool things here, if we didn't already have the Sulyak, right, is you can go planet, and then you can destroy your Kaleido Heart to send it to the graveyard, and then by Kaleido Heart's effect, it'll come back, and then you get to mill any tier card, right? And what you can send is you can send Tearlaments Grief to add back your banished Sulyak, or if you don't want to destroy the Kaleido Heart, right, you could also just go planet, pop Scream, and then search the Sulyak that way. Just because Sulyak is pretty important just to be ensure, or just to ensure that our opponent doesn't like break through our board as easily. And you know, you have some things like that, little tricks like that can go a long way in also helping you win the game. But for now, we're just not going to use this because it's a waste, as we already have the Sulyak, and we'd much rather just keep the protection here just in case we do end up getting nibbed at some point. But yeah, with that in mind, now we can go for our level 8 or our rank 8 play, being for the Zombie Vampire, which we will make here. And then the Zombie Vampire will activate, detaching. Once again, it literally does not matter. Just detach either one, and then you get to mill 4 more cards, and you're going to bring back a monster. So we have the Foolish, the Beast King, the Ash Blossom, and the Tier Cash. So here, we're actually going to bring back the Beast King because this will basically open up the avenue to allow us to potentially summon out a Totally Awesome at some point if we can get access to the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. And we're going to be able to do that at some point, obviously, because we have a Havness effect still, and we have a Sharing effect still. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy playing this one, because it's a level 4 water, so you can overlay with it if the situation arises. It probably won't, judging by the state of this hand, but you never know. It might, you know. Judging by this, so we didn't get to show off the Horus engine much at all, which is fine, you know, it's not always going to happen. And I guess this could have been one of those situations where if you wanted to gamble hard enough, like I said, you can go to the planet, pop the Kaleido Heart if you didn't really care about the protection, and then in this instance, you would send a either like the Sharon or the Havness to be able to fusion summon. But from here, we do have a couple of options left, judging by the extra deck. Like, we can go link these into Saryuja just to draw 4 and like get a good card potentially. And but if we're being honest, like, this field is already, despite like its lackluster appearance, it's already pretty strong for what it's trying to do, right? Like, you have the Kaleido Heart spin, you have the Planet Pop, you have the Sulyak negate. We're going to have the Tearlaments Scream, mill 3, which I actually have not used yet. And you can trigger it off the Beast King of the Swamp summon. And then you have these 2 guys, which are basically just link fodder. So what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to mill 3 with our Scream. And then hopefully we can hit the Havness right then and there. We got Grief, Scream out. Oh, lo and behold. Speak of the devil. So we're going to go Havness, Chainlink 1, and then Grief, Chainlink 2, just to add back our trap. Because we can, and then it's nice to have the fodder. So we're going to do this, activate Havness, so it'll go to the bottom, and then for what we're going to put at the bottom, we're going to put back one of the Imsetis. This is basically where the power of Imseti comes through, so not only is it great for helping us turbo into Zombie Vampire, but because it's a dark monster, we can fuse with it into Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and just like that, we've unlocked Totally Awesome. Sorry, I almost forgot about that, by the way. It's pretty difficult filming these types of things in real time, especially when it's a long one take, as it's very often that I run out of breath and just, I tend to, just completely forget my train of thought. So that worked out for us though. And just like that, we have the Mud Dragon in the swamp, and now we can go for the Bahamut play. So we're gonna overlay, we're gonna make Bahamut, and then we're gonna put it over here just because when I summon Totally Awesome, I enjoy putting it in a zone where there's basically no risk of it being sucked up by like something such as Relinquished Anima. And as for what you're gonna detach in this situation, because we don't have a Beast King in the graveyard, we're gonna detach the Beast King. And then from here, we have all this fodder, and you're like, what am I gonna do now? I can't get rid of it. Well, that's where you're wrong. As now, we can just link these 4 off straight into the Saryuja Skull Dread. If you don't want to make the Skull Dread because you feel like your hand is already good enough, then you can just go into like the IP Masquerena and you use any of the other 3 except for Tear Cash. You can leave that on the field, leave the IP here, and then the monster that's left over of the 3 is typically going to be the one that you use for the SP Little Knight summon, and this is going to be usually set off of like a Solyak or whatever, but because we want to be greedy and show off the power, we're going to draw 4. So as a result, draw 4, Imseti, Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino, Felice, and Weiss. Now, let's just check our graveyard really quick to see if we have any King Sarcophaguses left. And nope, both are in here. So now that we know both are in there and we do not have a Shuffler in the deck, we can for sure make our choices a little bit more easily, right? So Primeval Planet, it's going back no matter what, just because we already have one active and it's already been used. Then from here, this is where the choices get a little bit tougher. We can send a Solyak back to the grave, but that means that we're gonna not have as an effective Rhinoheart, for example, if we end up milling another one at some point, which probably will, but it's not the end of the world. And then you have these 4 right here. Well, obviously we're always gonna keep 1 just because it helps us beat our opponent, but from here, you have to make a decision on if you want to basically like risk it. And with the way that the extra deck is, we're probably gonna try and go for the IP Masquerena more than anything. So because we have both of them milled, we're just gonna put the Imseti back as well. And then from here, we have the Ash, we have the Solyak, we have the Felice, and we have the Weiss. And then we're just gonna activate the Weiss, put the Felice on the top, mill the Felice plus 1 other card, being another planet, which, I mean, whatever. And then Felice effect will activate, and then we're just gonna overlay, or not overlay, we're gonna link these 2 off into the IP Masquerena. And if you care, this is technically boosting the IP by 300 attack, so, it's a little beefy, it's a little strong, but with that, we can then set the Solyak, and now we have an Ash Blossom in our hand with the Solyak set, with the Scream that's gonna mill 3 more cards, with the Planet Pop, an IP Masquerena that can be used to link, and we're probably going to use the Saryuja if I'm being honest. We have a free Omni Negate in the Totally Awesome, and then another Bounce / Foolish in the form of Kaleido Heart. And even though this board may not look like much, it is pretty strong, and it is a very big nuisance for most decks to deal with. They basically just need a multiple big blowout cards in order to deal with it effectively, and most decks just straight up aren't doing that. So if you're able to set up a board like this, you've essentially already won, right? So you pass to your opponent, they try to do anything, you can go activate Scream to mill 3, charge, Beast King, Mudora. Okay, we hit our Shuffler now, so we can basically turn on our planet whenever we want. If the monster gets too threatening, we'll just go the IP route, make the SP will banish, and then it can banish again itself and like something else just to clear the board. And then you still have your negate here, a shuffle here, a negate there, and a pop here with another negate here. So like I said, like the amount of pressure that this deck puts out, even though it seems like we wasted a lot of resources to get there, and this is like a bad hand, right? Where we basically had to steamroll our way into something playable. And we were still able to accomplish a big board like this. So if you can get like a proper idea of like just how powerful like this variant is, even though the hands aren't like the greatest at times, and there are certain situations where if you get hand trapped by something, you will be struggling. But that's just the nature of the deck. When it goes off, and because of the inclusions of cards like Dugaris or for cards like Minerva, we can basically bend our luck to turning those more unfortunate hands into really good hands. So with that, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.